The following podcast contains explicit language. Also, some spoilers. So we are sorry in advance if we offend you.
Hi, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Julie.
And this week we're starting off our set of bonus episodes where we are going to delve into last season's season 6 of The Walking Dead. Our plan is for the next few weeks, we're going to tackle 2 episodes a week. That way we're not squeezing too much into one. We don't want to sit here for an hour and 2 or whatever talking about the full season or whatever, but we want to dig into each episode and make sure that we get lots of details. There's a lot of stuff that happened this season. When we get down to it and we get towards the finale, we're going to devote a full episode to the episode directly before the finale and then the finale because, everybody's going to want to talk about what Negan did. But for the purposes of today we're starting off fresh and we're doing episodes 1 and episode 2, which is First Time Again and JSS. So let's just hop right into it.
Yeah.
First off, we're not going to do heavy recaps, just sort of a real basic nuts and bolts to sort of remind and, jog the brain of where we were a few months ago. So for First Time Again, basically, right after the town meeting, Rick and Morgan discover a large group of walkers in a nearby quarry. Rick pushes forward a plan to lure the walkers away from the community before they can become a greater threat. And Rick's domination of the Alexandrians leads one in particular to contemplate killing him, while Morgan also provokes him to question his conscience. Glenn then covers for the wrongdoings of Nicholas, who works really hard to redeem himself. Ultimately, the whole plan for leading the walkers away falls apart when a horn blares near Alexandria and attracts many of the walkers away from their orderly parade. And scene. Quickest recap we've probably ever done.
Ever.
And shout out to Wikipedia that provided that for us. Thank you very much. So jumping right in, we've got a couple of major points that we want to hit on.
Yeah, just a couple of things that we wanted to talk about. First and foremost, I think the thing that we noticed right away is the filming sequence of this episode. Mm-hmm. They do some flashbacks and they use black and white to kind of show that it's not the current time. It is a couple days ago. And I thought it was a very interesting way to show that. I do remember back when the episode first aired, there were a couple of people who were a little confused about it at first, like the first few times that it happened, and then we're catching on. I caught it right away. It was very plain to me.
It does take a second because if you let's say you did a binge of season 5,
right,
or at least watch the season 5 finale, which literally the last moment is, he shoots Pete.
Right.
Well, we're to assume, and Dianna's like, do it. Shoot, boom, end of season. And the very next thing, you see them standing around on a quarry, and he's like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And you're like, where are we? What is going on? So, it did take a minute or two for the brain to really sort of, and you're like, oh, they're in black and white,
well,
so
and
this might not be current.
A few years ago, they re-released the first season all in black and white. I don't know if you ever saw that, but yeah, they did the entire first season in black and white. So to me, right away, I'm like, wait,
did I jump back in time? Is it the first season again? Because I can't do this again. I can't do it again.
But otherwise, no, I thought it was a very unique way to show. That way we didn't waste, another episode. Or the first episode wasn't more of this boring.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't so much boring. We got to see a couple of things in those flashbacks of them. Well, what's her face? Tara waking up and that kind of stuff. So
it wasn't really boring. It was more like slightly plot moving forward kind of things, right, and more relationship-y things.
Things that they couldn't necessarily skip over because people would be like, the fuck happened?
Right. And the very first thing that would happen would be, the aftermath after someone being shot in the head like that.
Right.
We're assuming in the head. Yeah, because it doesn't. Yeah, what's his face says it's in the head.
Deanna says, "Do it." Rick shoots him, and the moment after, he looks up and sees Morgan. And you're like, "What?"
Oh yeah, that's right, Morgan. You're like, mind blown. Rick's mind is blown. Okay, so it did it served a lot of purposes. First of all, it put you where your brain expected to go as soon as the season started is not where they went.
Right.
They went someplace totally different, and they made you have to think for a second. And again, like you were saying, it's a great plot device that, here's this kind of more exciting and action-packed thing that we're going to throw here and sprinkle in the beginning, and then we're going to kind of backtrack and show you, and part of this really exciting moment was us standing around a table looking at plans and stuff like that, which is not necessarily super exciting, but
it filled in the holes.
Exactly. So one of those things, too, when they were going back and forth that they hit upon, which was really important, like a trigger, was, it opens in this quarry, but then the scene of actually finding the quarry with Rick and Morgan and, Ron kind of running in there. And we sort of made the discovery when prepping for today that there's lots of things that, butterfly effect. This affected 50 things down the way, but this supremely affected it. The walkers weren't getting out of the quarry. No. They had no idea that quarry was even there,
they didn't
really.
know, well, and the walkers were drawing more walkers, so away from Alexandria and into the quarry instead.
Exactly. So the fact that, you could say that the truck that sort of fell and precipitated them having to do what they had to do would have eventually happened anyway. However, would they have even known about the quarry until after that truck sort of fell out of the way and they started streaming out? Unless Pete died. Because anyone else in Alexandria that died for any purpose was usually buried within the walls. Mm-hmm. But because of everything that had happened, and Pete was, and Dianna was like, no, get him out.
Well, not only that, but Rick had such an annoyance and an irritation with Pete. He didn't want him buried there.
Exactly.
Anyways.
It was Rick's idea. We don't bury murderers in our whatever. And people were like, I don't know what to do here. And then Dianna backed him up and was like, get him the fuck out of here. So when he and Morgan go and they go to bring the body, and then there's a moment with Ron where he's running after Ron, and that's how they even found the they heard it though first, weren't they? They were they could hear because there were so many walkers together. Yeah. When you get 5,000 bodies together snarling and going, I guess it must carry really well.
I would assume so.
And, acoustics and all of that at the quarry. So so it was just interesting that, that's such a big part of what the whole part of the season is
this herd.
The herd that comes from the quarry and the fallout of all of it, that it's just interesting to know that Pete, Porch Dick himself, is the reason why we even ended up in the quarry to begin with. So,
and if not for Pete and poor Reg.
I know.
When that truck let go, the entirety, the whole 5,000 or however many walkers were in that quarry were going to go to Alexandria.
Regardless.
Instead of half of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and to kind of carry on with that, in this planning of how they're going to move this quarry full of walkers away from Alexandria, Rick is taking charge, and Dianna is in no right mind to do anything, so she just kind of hands it over. Yeah. Unfortunately, though, Rick has not gained the trust of really any of the Alexandrians yet.
Really? They didn't trust him?
The only people who trust him are our group, and rightfully so. Rick has proven, even in some of his worst moments, that he can lead this group, that he will keep them safe.
Right.
We've lost people, but Rick, Shane wouldn't have gotten them that far. I don't care what anybody says. There's no way. He was too crazy.
Yes, Internet. Shane would have eventually fallen apart. You heard it here first.
So, but, these poor Alexandrians have known nothing but a little bit of a crazy Rick. He went into Pete's house and beat the fuck out of him.
And to be fair, our crew is pretty used to, they're like, oh, okay, what's day? It's a Thursday. Rick just showed up with blood all over his face. So it's pretty,
this is normal.
This is par for the course.
Guys.
It's normal.
It's cool.
It's almost why, I know I'm jumping, but in a later episode when they're at the hilltop, he looks around and he's like, what? We talk all the time about the fact that this show sometimes will find the humor, and when that moment I literally fell out of my chair at home. He's like, what? But yes, the distrust of Rick, it's understandable. The only thing they've seen of him so far was, hearkening back to last season, he pulls out the gun and he shouldn't have it.
I mean, even Michonne has to knock him out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of his own people.
Person has to knock him out to get him to stop. So they don't trust this guy, and I probably wouldn't either. Plus, they're so green. They have no idea what's going on outside their walls because they've been there this entire time. So Rick kind of has to check them a little bit and show them, you guys don't know shit. We know what's going on. Listen to us. And he has a couple of moments where the construction workers are about to get overrun by walkers, and he stops them and stops his crew from getting in there and things like that. And then what was the guy's name that was going to plot to he got
Carter.
Carter, yeah.
Yeah, I just call him Can't Hardly Wait Boy. I just wanted at one point for him to turn and go, Amanda? Sorry.
They start to devise this plot to even assassinate Rick.
Yeah,
and poor Eugene.
We did this earlier when we were prepping. He heard what we said.
I didn't hear anything.
I didn't hear anything. I did not hear. Poor Eugene.
But yeah, so there's that element going on where Rick is trying really hard to pull them together, this untrusting crew of people together to now make this work. They don't have the extra day. They have to do it now.
And what's funny, too, is sort of along the lines of that is they're distrusting Rick, but we're, as much as we, the audience, trust Rick because we know he's never brought his people to harm, he's also, some of the things he's saying, he was still, at this point, he was still saying things like, if they can't do it, we'll just take it from them. Right. You know what I mean? So he was still in that phase where you were like, huh? Yeah. Oh, that's a little rough. Yeah. And even, there was later on when they're actually moving along with the herd and some of the things he says, it's, some of his distrust is earned, Oh, yeah. I mean, it's from these people. They haven't seen enough yet of him, so it's interesting. And I'm glad that they threw those other things in there, like him saying, if they can't handle it, we'll just take it from them, because then it gets the rest of us who we usually trust Rick. Right. We have those moments of well, Jesus, that's a little
you're being a little much here, Rick.
Totes harsh, Grimes. Okay, so dial it back. And not only so, in the midst of distrusting Rick, we've also got this other interesting thing happening, which is here's Nicholas, who you shouldn't trust at all, and here's Glenn covering for him.
So if you remember in the season finale of season 5, Nicholas lures Glenn outside and beats the shit out of him and almost kills him.
Shoots him in the shoulder.
Yeah, almost kills Glenn.
Yeah. And
Glenn figures it out and takes Nicholas back into Alexandria and chooses not to tell anyone about it.
And obviously because of other things which will come up in the next episode when we discuss that episode, but you kind of want to, even at the time when we didn't know what was going to play out with Nicholas, even at the time you're like, is this smart? Just because he's done so many things.
Well, I mean, especially Nicholas. He was not to be trusted from the beginning. He's a coward. He's not a good person.
Which means he could even not want to hurt someone, but out of self-preservation, just like with Noah.
Exactly.
He didn't want to hurt Noah specifically.
He just wanted to save his ass.
Self-preservation made him do what he did. And because of that, he knew that Glenn was gunning for him. So self-preservation wasn't, I don't want to hurt Glenn, but I kind of have to if I want to survive.
Yeah, the whole thing completely surprised me because season finale 5, I was really surprised that Glenn didn't kill Nicholas. 100% surprised. Well, I wasn't. It
would have been his first person kill too.
But in that instance where you are, it's kill or be killed. It would have been understandable for him to do so, and he still didn't. And now he's taking it one step further, and he's not turning Nicholas over to Rick.
It's tough because as much as I was like, this is going to bite him in the ass, there was a part of me that was like, okay, the last time that they came back from a mission. And he was like, you guys fucked up, Noah was killed and whatever. He's like, I know what you did. Right. I know what you did.
Right.
It didn't really go anywhere. They, when they were fighting and whatever, Deanna was, especially when her son was still around, who's the one that got blown up? Not Spencer, the other one who died, who ran the missions.
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Not important. Chase or something like that. Anyway,
he
whatever.
was in like 2 episodes.
I know, 2 episodes, and he blew up and
he was so cocky. I was like, I don't like this guy.
Right. And he died exactly the way a cocky bastard should, with a piece of rebar coming out of his chest.
Yeah.
And then he was lunch. But when they had like all of their run-ins with them, Glenn came back and he did tell in the beginning little bits here and there, and Deanna knew that her son was misbehaving, that Nicholas was along with him, but there wasn't a lot of like, consequences.
No.
So in this instance, I think Glenn also made that choice of he knows that because of Rick's behavior, there was still a lot of us versus them.
Yeah.
And I think Nicholas, having put his life on the line to do runs, even though they know it was bullshit, the people that are in Alexandria are so green, so inexperienced that they would look at someone who's like, listen, he may have made some mistakes, but he's also out there putting himself at risk for us, so he gets a little bit of a pass. I'm wondering, too, if part of what, Glenn just made a decision where it was less about I'm going to save you and more about I'm not sure how much of this would be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need to like self-school it, like self-fix it.
And the way that Maggie explains it to Tara also about like he put his trust in you after you came to our gates at the prison and with the governor and blew our home to pieces.
Yeah.
But he still brought you in, and Maggie even says like I don't know if I would have been able to, and I'm glad he did because look how close we are, your family now.
Yeah. True.
Now I don't know if Glenn ever expected Nicholas to become family like Tara did, but I think Glenn has a bit of Herschel in him and wants to see the best in people.
Right. And I think since he had never been sort of tainted by the person kill, Glenn still, to date, I think, hasn't killed a person.
No, he took over when they infiltrated one of Negan's places. He killed in place of Heath.
Yeah, that's right. So he does have his one, but how long did it take for him to get there,
Yeah.
And he was so conflicted about doing it anyway. But I think that he really was in touch with wanting to still be that, how we hate to say this, but be the moral center of the group, which, usually dooms him, but, it depends on how good you are at hiding under a dumpster.
So we've got them jumping into action when they're moving this herd of walkers, and everything's actually going pretty well for them having to be Johnny on the spot, right?
Strangely enough, considering that they were not expecting to do what they were doing, that it was, let's just get this shit done because we have to.
Yeah. And like they put up those walls so that when they came in, it would keep them going the way that they wanted, and everything was holding, everything was doing great. And then out of nowhere, this fucking horn in the distance starts going.
Yeah.
And not even a second later, they realize that's Alexandria.
Yeah, it's coming towards home.
They don't know why. They don't know what it is. All they know is half the walkers are breaking off now, and there's nothing they can do about it except for get back there and try to get that horn to stop.
It's funny because when we went into this season, everybody kept talking about Negan, and we hadn't seen him yet, and I wasn't sure when we saw what the horn was going to be. I was expecting that it was entirely possible that we could have someone who was just like parked near Alexandria who was simply doing that
because they knew what was going on.
Like they were observing
ideas.
It was interesting to see how it sort of played out, and we'll do that when we get into JSS. But it's weird, isn't it weird how something as simple as just like a vehicle horn just was so, and we didn't even really know it was a vehicle horn. It was a horn, but it could have been like an air horn or a whatever. But it was so unnerving to have a sound like that so loud for so long.
Coming from the direction of our home,
when they figure that out.
And they've got thousands of walkers trying to get away from there, and now they're all starting to break off. It was more so the ones at the tail end that were just following the walkers in front of them, because the ones that were behind Sasha, Abraham, and Daryl were still more interested in what was directly in front of them, that loud noise.
Exactly.
Where if what was behind them not hearing Daryl's bike now are drawn off by this horn.
Yeah.
So, Morgan takes off and everything, and that's pretty much where they leave that episode and the horn kept playing too.
Yeah. During the credits.
It goes blank and the credits start going and the horn's still going. You're like, fuck.
And what's funny is through a sequence of events, my wife is not a Walking Dead watcher, so I typically watch by myself, and I very infrequently watch live. It's usually after we've watched television for the night. She goes to bed, I watch. So when that first aired and it started making that noise, it's like 10 o'clock at night and everybody else is asleep, and the dog lifts her head up and she's like, like, what is this noise? And I'm like, holy shit. And you're like, hit the volume so you can put it all the way down. So that's when it first was on. Then of course there's the inevitable rewatch and then watch again. So down the road, when I rewatched episode 1 and 2 again, when they cover those moments where the horn happens in both of those, as soon as the horn starts going, I'm like, shit, that thing again. And I have to put the volume all the way down. And in the first episode, it's difficult because as the horn's going, they're actually talking.
Yeah.
So I was like, great. So I had to put it on closed captioning. But anyway, so since we're also talking about, the great devices that was used in that episode, like the horn, which was so unsettling for something so, run of the mill. We just want to make a quick note too. Fun fact. It's a fun fact.
Fun fact.
That this episode was, of course, directed by the fantastic Greg Nicotero. And if you're sort of a casual watcher, Walking Dead watcher, or maybe you don't delve into all of the details of the show, not quite so internet nerdy savvy about it, Greg he typically ends up directing the highlight episodes of any season. If you go back and look,
any episode that's a little bit more artistic, or a good majority of the death episodes are Nicotero.
Yep.
My favorite episode, Tyrese's death episode, one of the most beautifully shot episodes, was Greg Nicotero.
Yeah.
And he just had some amazing just shots, like the shot of the gutter accepting the blood. What a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
Just things like that.
I think too, one of the great things about Greg is that, not discounting any of the other directors, because we love the series, we love all of the episodes. What's great is they all stay within the same genre, but you can sort of sense separate flavors within. The thing about Greg is that he is such a zombie fan, and if you follow his history, he's worked on so many other projects, and a lot of his background is in the actual makeup and application of all that stuff. And it's always fun to try and find him in certain scenes. He'll usually at some point make himself up in the zombie makeup and insert himself into a scene. Yeah. Which he
does that often. He likes
did this year in a really great episode. So that's episode 1. We're going to jump right into just a quick recap of episode 2, which is titled JSS. We'll get into that. And basically in this episode, it's the Alexandria is invaded by the wolves. They brutally slaughter a bunch of people in the streets. Spencer opens fire on a truck approaching the wall, kills the driver, but inadvertently activates the truck's horn. So that's the answer to that question. Morgan saves people while Carol fights her way to the armory to distribute the guns to the survivors. Carl tries to shelter Ron and Enid, but Ron refuses his protection and Enid ends up fleeing Alexandria. And as the Alexandrians begin fighting back, Morgan is attacked by a member of the wolves that he had previously met on the road, and he convinces him and his pack to retreat. And that's just sort of a nuts and bolts of that episode.
This episode opens with a flashback. We get to see Enid. We finally get a couple answers on her, and we pretty much just see she was with her parents. They were trying to replace a fuse in the car that they were in, and they get overrun by a couple of walkers, and then we just kind of follow a small journey of hers, and she's scavenging and just
Poor
keeps
turtle.
writing. I know. I was like, no. I love turtles.
As do I. We have a turtle here in work and everything. It's hilarious.
And she just keeps writing this JSS everywhere. JSS. And she finally comes across Alexandria. She contemplates not going in, puts the JSS on her hand, and then goes to Alexandria.
Yep.
And we kind of get that poor Enid moment.
Yeah, a little empathy for her.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Because she was a bit of a bitch a little bit.
Yeah, she was kind of that standoffish bitch, very, had she already made the comment where she was like, it doesn't matter, she made the comment about how you can't defend it.
I think that was in this episode.
It's not enough people. It's too many open spots or whatever. And
I think that was in this episode,
like,
actually.
Dude, you're like in a safe place.
I know.
Like,
she's such a downer. But
oh, God, I'll tell you, this year with the friggin' teenagers and their Debbie Downer. Teens. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's just how the episode started. And I thought, to me at least, it was nice to finally get a little bit of information on the girl because you have no idea where she came from, why the hell she's so
Yeah.
And,
It was nice to get some, you get that backstory and sort of figure out, you get a little bit more insight into who she is and the decisions that she had to make sort of leading up to when the gate opens for her. There was also a lot of the sort of the thrust of the episode, if you will. It's very Carol versus Morgan centric. Carol's approaching the attack by the wolves in one way. Morgan is approaching it in his way. They aren't agreeing.
There's a total contrast between them.
Yeah, and they have already sort of, I don't want to say they've butt heads, but it was the previous episode when they showed the flashback to them building the wall for the walkers to sort of hit for when they're in that herd, the parade of herds, that Morgan finally called out Carol's like, you see everything.
You watch everything.
So I think she was already feeling defensive about Morgan.
Yeah, because he was the first person so far to figure her out.
Yeah.
Like, our group knows what she's doing. They realize that she's kind of become this undercover kind of person. They don't want anyone to know that she really is this kick-ass, badass person. She wants people to trust her and to open up to her and tell her things. So she's trying to just be like this real sweet Susie homemaker.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Yeah.
And Morgan sees right through that. And I thought it was really interesting. Morgan he's got this mantra of all life is precious, and he doesn't want to kill anybody.
Right.
Where Carol has pretty much said, fuck that, they're invading
kill
my home,
everybody.
Kill everyone.
Right.
And that's what she does. I mean, there's even one point where Morgan has a prisoner. He's pulling a wolf along, and Carol literally runs up, stabs the guy, and runs off. And you're just like, oh, shit. And Morgan's just like, I hate you so much
It's like the equivalent of like trying to I've got this like broken piece of something that I'm going to try and fix. I'm going to gingerly carry it to, and somebody walks by and knocks it out of your hands.
Exactly.
It's basically what Carol did. She's like, fuck that shit. Kill this guy. Bye-bye.
Right. Whereas Morgan is like, he's surrounded at one point by a couple of wolves, and he incapacitates them. He unarms them. He gets them to leave.
And his way works. You know what I mean? Like, whether you agree or disagree, using the staff and incapacitating people, like you're saying, it works.
Right.
So,
in a way, and
at least for the time period.
In the next episode, we realize a consequence of Morgan letting these people go and not just killing them.
Of course.
And
it's
and I think there's a lot of that. But there's plenty of time to talk about Morgan and his lack of killing.
Yeah, and Carol just has like she's just like no holds barred, including there was also an Alexandria resident that she just was a friend of hers and she had to do the headshot. So, yeah.
So there's also something real interesting going on with Carl. Carl has this ability to defend the place where other kids of his age, Enid's instinct is to run right away. And Ron's instinct is get the fuck away from me. I don't need you. Don't help me, even though Carl saves his ass. Mm-hmm. And I find that really interesting that, because Carl's been out there for so long. And Enid was out there for a little while completely alone. So there's a little bit of a difference between them. Carl's always had this he also has had his dad. He's had Rick, this leader of this group, who's been teaching him, and he's picking up on a lot of Rick's things. So he is confident in his abilities to do things. And Eden just wants to run away at the first sign of danger. She wants to go. And Ron, I think, is just so mad right now at the world, at not just. He's mad at his dad. He's mad at Rick and now he's kind of projecting that onto Carl.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want anyone's help. Plus, he feels that Carl stole his girlfriend. He's stealing Enid away.
Yeah.
Chip on that boy's shoulder.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because like teens need help with the chip on the shoulder. They already probably would have had a chip on the shoulder, but then it's like, you go and kill his dad and take his girlfriend away.
Yeah, but not the first time Carl has impressed me on being able to defend his people and his sister and things like that, and to be a little adult.
Yeah, I mean, when the shit goes down, Carol literally is like, stay here, guard Judith, and he's basically like,
okay.
I'm not letting anyone in.
Right.
No one's coming in this house.
Right. And he does that. And I remember being really nervous when he walked out to save Ron. I'm like, just go back inside, Carl, just go inside.
Yeah, and there was even a moment too where, like, even though Carl and Ron don't get along, just that look on Ron's face when Carl got that guy,
He's a good shot.
He is a very good shot.
Yep.
So moving on from there, another real interesting plot point is towards once the wolves are sort of beaten back and have either retreated,
because everyone
a few
jumps
of them have retreated.
in, right?
Yeah, everybody
Carol
eventually
gets them weapons, and they are able to defend themselves.
Exactly. So you see like Rosita and Aaron running around and this, that, and the other. But there's a moment where they are checking people along the sidewalk, headshot,
Don't
whatever.
need any walkers coming back.
Exactly. So Aaron is walking along and he catches his eye that one of them, he goes to push one over and make sure it's alive or dead, and there's his backpack. So we were, discussing the implications of it's not, there's the initial, which is that backpack is the reason that they are there. Right. They knew this place existed and they came for them specifically because of that. And oh God, the crushing blow for Aaron.
Poor Aaron.
So
I felt
terrible.
so bad for him.
So terrible. But also the larger sort of thing that it represented, which we were talking about, is, there's some moments where Daryl and Rick are both disagreeing about going out and getting more people, like needing more people to, make them stronger. And they disagree. Rick doesn't want them to go out. Daryl thinks
really
they
wants
should.
To go out.
And here's this sign that, they weren't doing anything wrong when he lost that backpack. To be fair, they were caught in a trap.
By the wolves.
But who wouldn't have gone to check those trucks?
Right.
Anybody would have. There's totally no reason why
there
they wouldn't have made that
red
mistake.
flags saying this is a trap. It just looked like a bunch of trucks were there.
Exactly.
And no one had touched them yet.
Yeah, and to be fair, they made it to that car, and most people probably wouldn't have.
Right.
So, it was to no fault of theirs. He drops the stupid backpack, the poor guy, but it sort of sets in motion this feeling of, because Aaron owns up to it later, it sets in forward this whole motion of, not taking in more people, which makes them much more
like to calm down about it. Don't go out so often. Don't be out so long. Like, to put more caution into it when going out for people. And to maybe not to bring back anyone at the moment.
Right. To
wait on it. And, in all reality, the wolves would have eventually found them.
True
It's
enough.
just the timing on it was terrible.
Of course. The timing, putting it right up against the whole thing with the quarry.
Right.
It's just, oh God, the poor backpack. Poor guy. So then from there, we wanted to talk about the funny aspect of the length of the episode.
So it was something that I really enjoyed about the episode. Right after we get that flashback of Enid, we open up on Carol. She's cooking. She's in her kitchen. She's making a casserole.
Of course.
She had recently had a conversation with someone about a pasta maker and blah, blah, blah. She went to the pantry to get some food, and she made a snide comment about one of the girls needs to quit smoking.
Yeah.
So she's in the kitchen. She's making this casserole. She puts it in. She turns the timer on. She looks out the window, and that's when she sees the first wolf kill the lady who was smoking.
The smoking lady. And
then,
also the pasta maker lady, which that damn story, like, I would get you a pasta maker. It'd be like eating from Tuscany. Well, now you're dead, so there won't be any more pasta.
And then as the episode is wrapping up and the wolves are gone or retreated or dead, and I think it was Carl that went back into the house, and there's the ding of the food timer. So they were able to defend and get rid of the wolves in the time it takes for Carol to make a casserole.
A delicious casserole.
And I just thought it was funny. I liked the little thing that they put in there.
I loved it, especially since they had already started I don't want to say messing with, but they were sort of showcasing the episode's timelines in a completely different way. What we were talking about with the first episode, the jumping back and forth kind of thing, and the way the episodes sort of line up in a season of in the A structure of the season of season 6. Words. They fail me. To be fair, when you squeeze it all together and line up all the little puzzle pieces together, the first half of the season literally only takes a couple of days.
No, I think it's like one.
And here's this one episode where a majority of this action, because about 2 minutes into the wolf attack is when the truck comes and the horn blares.
Right.
So
it starts while they're moving the herd.
They are completely unaware that the herd movement is happening.
Because they couldn't get a hold of Tobin.
Yeah, exactly. And then the horn goes off, which we know is happening at the same time out there with the herd. So I think it was like 45 minutes or something that she set the timer for, if memory serves.
Yeah.
And so you know that episode, 45 minutes, and you're like, how many times do we watch episodes where it's like there's a bunch of different things and it's night and then day and then whatever, and it takes place over a couple of different days.
Yeah.
Here's an episode that literally was just the 40 minutes of the actual time of everything that happened.
Right.
It's just amazing. It was so well done.
I completely agree.
Yeah, and to sort of wrap up the feeling of the JSS episode, really the one image that really kind of sticks with you, other than JSS being written in bloody turtle bones, is poor turtle. Didn't know it was coming. And is
I don't know. The turtle presented itself like, it's okay, you can eat me, I understand.
Right. I mean, he was just walking there. Who the fuck wouldn't eat him? At first, it's like you have to think, is he a zombie turtle or is he just a turtle? You don't know. Anyway, so we digress. I think the overall image that sort of says everything about this episode is Carol's reaction to everything that happened that they all as a group, but she specifically personally had to do when she's finally able to sit and relax, and she's sitting on that stoop and then smokes the cigarette. Well, she almost smokes the cigarette. She has it in her hand and she's thinking about it. And
didn't she light it? I thought she lit it at the end of the episode. I don't
think she did. She might have.
Well, it's interesting because Carol turns into a total assassin in that episode, right? She's running around. She puts a hood up. She puts a bloody W on her forehead. She becomes one of them to kill them.
Yep.
And it's smart. She's so savvy. She's so quick on her feet. And then she's sitting down. That adrenaline's leaving her body. There's a pack of cigarettes on the ground. She grabs that and just starts like trying to rub the blood off of her hands and off of her forehead, and just she's covered in it.
Is that the moment where does she turn and see the A for Alexandria from what's his face, the kid?
Yeah.
Sam.
Yep.
Sorry about that, Sam. But yeah, I think it says so much about, here's this person who you normally on the outside, you've never really had a chance to see Carol have a reaction like that. You've never really seen her have a regret. You know, she really, like, the regret was showing. You know, it's just, that was so interestingly done. Especially, you know, there's some more plot points with Carol as the season progresses with her regret and how she feels that this sort of marks
is the starting point,
the beginning.
Yep.
You know, if there was something going on inside maybe before, we didn't see it. This is when you first realize
she's not doing well with all of it.
Carol's going through some shit.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
yeah. So that is our recap of episode 1 and episode 2 of season 6. Great kickoff to that season. So excited for being able to talk about more episodes. Next week, we are planning on discussing episodes 3 and 4 of season 6. Those episodes are Thank You is episode 3. And episode 4, Here's Not Here. I'm excited. They're 2 very different episodes.
Very different episodes.
Very different
but both
people to discuss.
Good episodes.
Yes, very good episodes. So I'm really looking forward to talking about both of them.
I'm just so happy we're finally talking about The Walking Dead. This is like mine and Diana's like nerd zone. This is where we are most comfortable. Now, don't get me wrong. I am loving Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I am really excited for it to come back for the B season of the season, but this is what I like to talk about.
Yeah, there's too much, and I think Fear will get there. We talk about this often. Fear just doesn't have. They haven't had a chance to establish these people's histories.
No.
I think if they don't take care of it in the B season, in season 3, there's got to be some callbacks. We've already seen just that quick callback for Daniel, but once we start getting some flashbacks of characters, if we see Maddie's backstory, Travis's backstory, which is probably going to happen since they're going to be separated out, so we're going to get more of what people call the bottle episodes. So it's once they have more depth to them. And once there's more episodes, like right now, we can call back old Carl stuff, old Carl
5 other
stuff.
seasons.
Exactly. There's a lot to pull from. Whereas for Fear, they just don't have it yet.
Yeah.
So we're still excited, but we also know that we could sit and riff about Walking Dead for forever.
Oh my God! If you want me to compare this season to the comic books, I could sit here for a few hours and talk about all that.
So we'd love to hear from you as well. If you've got questions about things we're going to cover for episode 3 and 4 for next week, or if you've got comments like what's something you noticed in episode 1 or episode 2 that maybe we didn't cover that you thought was really big or something that was a game changer, let us know. There's lots of ways to reach out to us. Start first if you want to send an email. We're aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com, but really center us at our Facebook page. We've got all of our links linked up on there. Just search on Facebook for Aim for the Head Podcast. That'll have all of our information on there. Links to where to go to follow us on Instagram. We are all one word, Aim for the Head Podcast. We've got some pictures up there. I'm going to throw up something for tonight. And then follow us also on Twitter. We are at AFTH Podcast. Hashtag any of your entries as hashtag AFTH.
Yep.
We'll be able to search and find them. Like I said, ask us some questions, give us some thoughts, some feedback. How did you feel about the season opener? How did you feel it sort of set the stage for the rest of season 6? Is Rick to be trusted?
And now that we're talking about Walking Dead too, keep an eye on our Instagram because I have lots of Walking Dead gear that I'm going to start posting up. I didn't feel comfortable doing it during Fear the Walking Dead, so
yeah, didn't feel like it was right during Fear to show my Funkos of Rick Grimes.
Right, exactly. So we'll start posting those up too.
And as a side note too, we'll probably eventually have to talk about Game of Thrones since I snagged her. How many hours of Game of Thrones do you watch this weekend?
21 hours. I watched 21 hours of Game of Thrones this weekend. I just finished season 3, episode 1 last night. So.
Texting me and she's like, season 1, I don't know. And then season 2, she was like, I'm in.
I'm so
totally
addicted.
in season 2. Okay, so anyway, folks, thanks so much for listening this week. Like we said, reach out to us via any of our social media outlets. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening to us. I'm Diana.
And I'm Julie.
And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening.